I don't know what dark romance is. I don't want to spend this whole video trashing dark romance. Is The Court of Thorn and Frisky Fairies, is that a dark romance? Let me tell you how I like my romance novels. I like them cute, like beyond cute, like disgustingly cute. I like them funny. I like witty banter. I like nice guys and complicated girls, ridiculous scenarios that don't really make a lot of sense. I like happily ever afters. As far as the steam level goes, I have a pretty wide range. I like closed door romance. I like wide open door romance as well, as long as things are funny and light and happy and brightly colored, like Technicolor style romance. Like any cutesy cartoon cover for a romance novel, I want to read it. Now, let's talk about my in-person book club and how this year they have decided that we will be reading all romance all the time. I don't tend to read a lot of romance. If you've been watching this channel, you kind of know that my go-to genre is mystery, thriller, suspense. I also like a lot of kind of general contemporary literary fiction. I do get a great kick out of romance. I think it's a good palate cleanser for me, a good way to kind of brighten up my life when I've been reading too dark of fiction. My in-person book club is like, hey, let's read all romance all the time. 2023 is the year of love. I'm fully in, but then they decided they wanted to try reading dark romance. No offense to any dark romance readers out there. I say read what you want. If you enjoy it, read away. And to be fair, I'm not sure I've actually ever read a real dark romance before. I think I read The Iron Duke once, and maybe that would be considered kind of dark romance. I think I got almost all the way through it and just couldn't handle like the non-consensual stuff that was happening. It felt very skeezy to me, so I stopped reading. This is a book club, which means you have to read things even if you don't want to read them. You are experiencing new books and new genres and stretching and expanding your mind. I am going to try reading dark romance, and you all are going to watch me read that dark romance. Mafia romance, biker romance, anything that is kind of on the darker side, I think. Dark themes. Things I probably can't say on this YouTube channel without offending someone. I don't know, I guess over the next 3 months, as we read through 3 different dark romances, I will learn a little bit more about what dark romance is. So the first book that I am reading for the dark romance theme for my book club is Wretched by Emily McIntire. I read the back and I still don't really know what it's about. This is a fractured fairy tale series, I believe, and I think this one is a loosely based on like a Wizard of Oz type theme. So I don't know if we're going to get like the Wicked Witch is getting sexy with the Tin Man, maybe? Is that what we're looking at here? I have heard rumors. Once upon a time there was a wicked girl. She lost everything that mattered, causing darkness to unfurl. She helped her family name grow strong, but then one day a man without a heart came along. Is this book going to be a rhyming poetry book? I was not fully expecting that for dark romance. I do kind of like the idea of the Tin Man as the heroic lead. She hated him, he wanted her. I am not sold based on either the cover or the back description of this book. People have told me this is good for dark romance, or good enough. I don't know. Good is so subjective, y'all. You know how I feel about good and star ratings. It is based on your own reader preferences and your own whatever is going on in your life. So hopefully I am in a place where this is what I need right now. The author has left me this kind note here, talking a little bit more about dark romance, which according to the author is a sliding scale. What is considered pitch black for some will be light gray for others. But look at this, reader discretion is advised. Good morning. It is a Monday. It is a work day for me, a day job work day, but it is a work from home day, which means I get to kind of stay a little bit cozier, got a hot cup of tea, and while I wait for my computer to kind of rev up and warm up, I thought I would chat with you a little bit about Wretched by Emily McIntire. I have read almost 100 pages of this book, about a third of the way through. This is a pretty short book. It's a little less than 300 pages, and it is going by fairly quickly. It is one of those books that's like easily digestible prose, and the story is moving forward quickly. I can't tell you if I like it yet or not. I don't know if it matters if I like it. ever. I'm not sure I am the intended audience for this book, and so it's going to be kind of difficult to talk about it in a way that kind of makes sense, because if you are a dark romance reader and you like these kinds of stories, this might be the kind of book that is right up your alley. But if you're not a dark romance reader, if you typically don't pick these kinds of books up, I'm not entirely sure this is going to be a good book, a good choice for you. Some of the things I am liking about this book are the little touches, the little details from The Wizard of Oz that are put in here. One of the characters is growing poppies in her basement. There's also a drug out on the streets called the Flying Monkeys, so I appreciate those little touches. The gist of this story is that our main character, Eveline, basically the Wicked Witch of the West, the Westerly sister, is living in this town. It's kind of like the Emerald City, and she is part of a crime family. Her father is like a mob boss. Then our main hero, our main male lead, is going undercover. He's an FBI agent. He is going undercover to infiltrate this crime family and see where these new drugs are coming from and if they can put him in jail. You know, typical mob boss, good guy, bad guy vibes. At the beginning of the book, the hero and the heroine have a meet cute that is, I guess, cute in terms of dark romance. They are kind of hiding their identities from each other, and then they meet up again when the FBI agent goes undercover, and things are getting a little tangled and a little complicated. I'm not hating it. I don't know if I'm enjoying it. I'm not really feeling very much about it at all. I'm honestly kind of skimming some of it, which I think is a little bit related to the fact that I don't really care about the story or the characters very much. I'm not fully invested in what's going on, and I think that is just because this is not my genre. I don't necessarily want to throw it against the wall, though. There are some elements in here that are pretty fun. I think it's going to be a pretty quick book to get through, so I'm going to keep reading, see if things get a little bit more interesting for me, or if I develop more connection to the characters. I think there's a lack of world building here that I'm struggling with as well. Like, yes, there are elements from The Wizard of Oz that I'm enjoying, but I'm not feeling fully immersed in this story or this world. I'll check back in with you when I have read a little bit more, or maybe when I finish it, because it is, like I said, going by very quickly and also slowly at the same time. Okay. Charlie is hungry, as am I. I just got back from a little Pilates/dance class. It was pretty fun. But what I want to talk to you about is Wretched by Emily McIntire. I cannot finish this book. Look how far I got. I have this much left to read, and I am bailing on this one. This is a DNF for me. Hard pass. Nope, 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 nope. Absolutely not. So what happened this morning? I got up, I did some writing before work. I had a little bit of time, so I decided to sit down and get a little reading done before I had to go to the day job. So I picked this book up, and I'm kind of going through it. I'm not really enjoying it. Whatever. Things are happening. Bad guys, good guys. What's really annoying me at this point with this book is that the main characters hate each other. It's like enemies to lovers, except like they really hate each other, except when they're boning. So they don't have a nice word to say to each other at any time. They're not nice to each other. They're constantly bickering. They're constantly fighting. They're constantly in their heads saying, I hate this person. I can't stand this person. This person is the worst person ever. Blah. Except my body. My body is drawn to them. I'm physically attracted to them. The chemistry, which I guess happens. I don't know. Maybe I'm the only person in the world who needs like an emotional connection to somebody before I feel also like physically attracted to them. It's possible that I am just not living the dream. I hope my dad is not watching this video. Hi, Dad. That's one problem that I have with this relationship, is that they loathe each other, but not in like a fun way, in just like a stop hanging out. You obviously aren't made for each other. Okay, so I'm making my way downtown, walking fast, faces past, and I'm homebound. God, I wish this book was that song instead of what it is. Recently, a friend of mine was talking about reviewing and how readers review and how readers read books, and she was talking about bringing a generous spirit to reading, and I completely agree with this. Yes, at times it is about how I'm feeling as a reader, how the book made me feel, but sometimes it's also about whether the author did what they set out to do with the book. Did they meet the expectations that they set up. And I think in the case of this dark romance genre, the author is meeting the expectations. I think that the book is entertaining in some ways, and I think for a certain type of reader, it would be a good book. For me, it is not. And so I'm trying not to like thrash this book too hard. I know what it takes to write a book and how personal it can feel and how much energy and effort and love and care you give to a book. And then it sucks to have somebody just like pick it up, blow through it in a couple hours and be like, well, that was garbage. So I don't want to do that. However, the scene that broke me with this book, the scene that made me say, no, hard pass, I am not returning to this book. I'm not continuing. I am not wasting any more of my short life on this, is a scene that came about 2/3 of the way through the book. It is a steamy scene. It is an on-screen, they're getting together kind of scene. And there's an aspect of this scene that just is unacceptable to me. I think that if you've read this book, you know what I'm talking about. Also, if you've ever heard anybody talk about this book, I think you know what I'm talking about. It just wasn't fun for me. It wasn't engaging. It wasn't interesting. It was just, I think, there for shock value, there to gross people out, there because it is the dark romance genre and we do taboo types of things inside our scenes. So R, I don't know why I would say R. I don't write dark romance, I never will, and I don't even want to read it anymore. That scene, I skimmed it. I looked over at Ryan, who was reading on the couch next to me, and I was like, yeah, I think I'm done with this book. Let me tell you what just happened. And he had a few interesting things to point out. For instance, like, is that going to be a problem later for her? I don't even want to talk about it. It's just, but then if I don't talk about it, then you're going to be like, what is it? I'm going to go look. Go Google Wretched. I'm sure you'll find plenty of people talking about it. If you don't like gunplay, don't read this book. Is that even a thing? Gunplay? That's what we're looking at. And just kind of like in today's society, with everything that's going on, with everything that happens with guns in our society, this was not what I wanted to read. It was not romantic. It was not sexy. It was just not. 199 pages into Wretched. I had 100 pages left to go. I'm giving up on it. I really hope that this video is not just me DNFing all 3 dark romance novels. I'm heading off to the office, but before I leave, I wanted to talk about the book that I started reading yesterday, which is Neon Gods. I think it's by Katee Roberts. And I have this feeling that this book is going to be slightly more gray than black in terms of shades of dark. I am about 5 chapters into Neon Gods, and the setup is basically there's like this modern day Olympus where the gods kind of live and work and thrive, and I don't fully understand what's happening with the world. The world building is a little bit lackluster for me. I'm a little bit confused. Are we in some kind of fantasy modern day world, or is this like supposed to be set in a very realistic modern day world? The vibes are kind of fantasy because of some of the language, but at the same time it does seem very modern and realistic. So Persephone is our main character, and she is at a party with her family and her sisters. It's like a rich people party. They don't really want to be there. They're not really happy with their situation, even though they're kind of in this higher strata of the social ladder. And come to find out, Persephone is ambushed, and her mother has set up this marriage, has arranged this marriage with Zeus. Now, Zeus has a very bad reputation. He has gone through many wives before Persephone has come to the scene. Persephone has had this plan where she's trying to get out of Olympus, and she's hoping that when she turns 25, she'll be able to take her trust fund money and escape this life that she doesn't want. But now she's in the situation where her mother has forced her hand in marriage with with Zeus. Sorry. Who's going where, what, why? So Zeus says, hey, you're my fiance now. We're going to get married. And Persephone's like, oh, hell no. I got to get out of here. She's afraid for her life. She takes off running, ends up crossing the river Styx on one of the bridges, and the people of this city are not supposed to cross this river. So then our other main character, of course, is Hades. Persephone runs straight into his arms, and he is this kind of dark, brooding, dangerous character. We don't know much about him at this point. He takes Persephone in and kind of takes care of her, but he kind of sees her as a pawn that he can use against this battle that he's having with Zeus. Some things that are working for me are kind of the banter between Hades and his friends Dionysus and Hermes. Hermes? God names, right? Also, I really like Hades' chapters. Persephone's chapters are a little bit clunkier. The writing's kind of cliche. I don't know, there's something not quite working. I am not fully invested in this book. I'm a little bored with it, to be honest. I'm not 100% like gung-ho, this is my favorite book ever. But I am interested to see what direction it takes and where these two characters, Persephone and Hades, go. But I gotta go to work now, so that's what I'm doing for the next 8 hours. This book is going so slow. I'm so bored. I hate it when a book is this boring. Is it just me? One of the people in my book club says that it does get a little bit thrilling, but she didn't tell me at which point it gets thrilling. I'm at about 25%. I'm gonna give it to 50%. I know you all are going to be shocked to learn that I did not finish reading Neon Gods by Katee Roberts. I got about 25% of the way into this book. I don't know what that translates to in pages, but it was not very far. The book was barely getting started, and I just could not. There wasn't anything wrong with the book at that point other than I was just very bored. The world building was slim to none. The character development, again, was slim to none. And yes, I was only 25% in to the book, so it is possible that the characters did develop some as the book went on. I put the book aside for about 5 days and did not have any desire to pick it back up again, was not interested at all in the characters or what was happening to them or in the world or how that was being developed. That is usually a good sign that I should not return to a book, that I should not be wasting my time reading a book that I am not even remotely enjoying. I have another failed dark romance, but it was for very different reasons. The first one was because the action that was happening in the book was a little bit too dark for me. It crossed a line that I did not want to continue. And this book was just boring. So, third time's the charm. I'm not feeling good about it. It is a Sarah J. Maas book, the first book in the Crescent City series. I am not a huge Sarah J. Maas fan. I'm not a fan. I am a neutral party when it comes to Sarah J. Maas. I've read 2 of her books. The House of Sexy Fairies, I don't know. The first one I did not like. The second one I loved. I am going to give this book the old college try because one thing that Sarah J. Maas does well is world building and character development. But on the other hand, it is like 900 pages, which is a huge undertaking. So I need to get started on that. Hello. I'm back. I started reading House of Blood and Earth, Book 1 in the Crescent City series by Sarah J. Maas. Maas? Who cares? She's getting plenty of money. She doesn't need me to pronounce her name right. Jealous much? This is the 3rd book that my book club chose for their Dark Romance Reads quarter. And this book is about 900 pages long. Great, love it. This is the only book I'm gonna be reading this month. I got an Audible subscription so that I can do audiobook and read it so that hopefully I can get through it in time. I think our book club meets in like 2.5 weeks and I don't know. I'm gonna try my best. I honestly wasn't even gonna really start it, but then my friend texted and she was like, hey, so I'm interested in hearing what you have to say about this book because it's not so much a romance yet. It is a lot of a murder mystery. And you know I love a good murder mystery. That's what I do around here. That's my jam. Here I go, diving into this 900-page book. I made it through part 1 and now I am in part 2. And let me tell you which chapter I'm on and what my Kindle has to say about that. I just started chapter 12 and guess how much of a percentage I am done with this book according to my Kindle. Guess how much? Can you see that? Is that gonna, that's not gonna, you can't see that. You can't see that. 17%. I feel like I've already gone through a lot with these characters and we're only 17% done. Boy, page 134. I'm proud of myself. Hey, we've got this far. We have got this far. And we have so much farther to go. But listen, look, I know that I'm kind of crapping on this book a little bit, but I'm actually really enjoying it. I have a bit of a back and forth with Sarah J. Maas. This is the 3rd book of hers that I'm reading. The first one, The House of Fairy Smut. I'm sorry, I can't remember these titles. The Court of Thorns and Roses. Why don't I just... No, I'm not going to look it up. You know what I'm talking about. The Fairy Smut books. You know. I've read book 1 and book 2 in that series. Book 1, blah, whatever. It was garbage. But I had fun reading it, but it was not my favorite thing. Book 2, obsessed with it. I couldn't stop reading it. I loved it. I think I was crying at the end. I was like, who even are you right now crying at this fairy smut? But I didn't finish that series because the books just kept getting longer and longer. And I am not a big books kind of gal for whatever reason. It is very difficult for me to read anything kind of past 500 pages. I will. It's hard to be like, yes, I'm going to commit to this tome for the entire month. But that's what I'm doing with the Sarah J. Maas book, so it better be goddamn good. So far, it's pretty good, shockingly, to me. Not to anybody else. I'm sure there's other people out there who are like, well, duh. But for me, I am shocked at the level of enjoyment that I am having with this book. The weird thing about this book is that there's a lot of political elements happening, a lot of fantasy world building, and I don't know if you remember, if you rewind, if you go back in this video, you may see me talking about Neon Gods and how I bailed on that 25% of the way in because it was so boring because there was no world building. And now here I am with Crescent City and I'm like, maybe it's a little too much. Is there a middle ground where we could have good world building and I'm not trying to unravel the strings of some complicated angel shifter demon government? It's a lot to keep track of, but you know, in general, I'm not trying to keep track of it. I'm just trying to kind of go along with the story. We have our main character, Bryce, who is, she works for a witch, I think, and she looks for old artifacts and sells fancy art and stuff out of this little shop. And she's friends with a wolf, Danica, who is a security guard, a cop. She and her wolf pack run around protecting things. The beginning of the book starts out pretty horrific, pretty awful for our main character, Bryce. And now we are in part 2 and she's about, I believe, to embark on a murder investigation with a questionably moral main character lead. Hunt? I'm not fully sure who or what he is. Like I said, there's a lot of world building and I'm not fully following what's happening. I think there was some kind of war between the angels and the rest of the creatures, and humans are somehow involved too. I've mostly listened to the audiobook at this point, and that's why I think I'm not fully understanding the layers of the political system, because when they kind of start talking about that, I'm kind of like, okay, I'm not really tracking, but it's okay. So Hunt, is a slave to the Archangel Micah, who is the governor of this Crescent City area, I think. Please don't come at me in the comments if I'm getting this wrong. I'm doing my best. Hunt, he is some kind of killing machine. He's an assassin, basically. He's violent, he smells of blood a lot, and he's rough around the edges, to be feared. And he doesn't think a lot of our main character, Bryce, he thinks of as like this party girl. She does drugs, you know, doesn't really have like a lot of goals or ambitions in her life. She's half fae and half human, and so he kind of looks down on her. And I hope that they're about to embark on a murder investigation, and that, you know, maybe some of their walls will come down. They might start to get to know each other a little better, a little this and that will happen. I'm gonna just sign off here and get to reading because I really have a lot of reading left to do, and I shouldn't be wasting any time talking to you all. I should just be reading this book if I'm gonna get it done in 2 weeks. Hopefully this is the book that I will finish in this dark romance vlog. I think it would be pretty terrible to have an entire reading vlog of a certain theme and all 3 books I did not finish. I should be excited. This is not a chore. I want to read. I'll check back in with you soon. I am honestly a little bit embarrassed to be coming on here and telling you this, but I did not finish reading Crescent City Book 1, The House of Blood and Fire. I don't even remember the title. I tried. I apparently didn't try hard enough. So here's what happened with this Crescent City book. Sarah J. Maas and I have kind of contentious relationship. not personally, just reader to writer. I think that she has great storytelling chops. I really think her books are fun, but they are just not always my jam, like what I'm looking for in a book. They're not my genre. I really don't like fantasy that much. There are some fantasy books that I do enjoy, but it takes a very special book for me to get really invested. Her books can be quite fun to read. Unfortunately, I was just kind of in a place in my life where I didn't want to pick up a 900-page book. I was setting myself up for failure here, y'all. I really was. As you have already seen, I started reading Crescent City. I was enjoying it. I was enjoying it quite a bit. And then I don't know what happened. It slowed way down. There was a lot of repetition. There was a lot of boring parts. There was a lot of ho-hum investigation. And I don't know if it's because mystery, thriller, suspense is my genre. Like, that is where I live and where I work. And so if there's a fantasy mystery that is trying to kind of co-op from the mystery genre, and it's doing it in kind of a clunky way, then I don't know that I'm fully invested in this story. We were introduced to a lot of characters at the beginning who I really connected with and was excited to spend time with. And then there was a shift in the book and some of those characters weren't there anymore. And then we got introduced to another character, to a new character, Hunt. I did not like his personality. I did not want to spend time in his head. And the chapters go back and forth between Hunt and Bryce. And so I did have to spend time in his head and I was just bored. Which is funny because the last book, Neon Gods, I dropped because I was bored because there was no world building. But in this case, in Crescent City's case, there's so much world building, a little too much, to the point where it could have used a good heavy edit in order to get to the core of the story. I found myself really only getting about 40% of the way through, and I was waiting for something else, something new, something interesting to happen, and it just wasn't happening. I set it aside for a while, picked up another book, read that book, then was like, I don't really want to go back to Crescent City, but I tried. Not every reader is going to love every book, and that is okay. We bring different things to the books we're reading. Authors aren't necessarily writing for every person, every reader in the world. That would be impossible. And so I went into this book knowing that I was not the good audience for it, that I was probably not going to enjoy it. And so self-fulfilling prophecy, I didn't really enjoy it. I put it down. So we talked about it at our book club meeting and I told them they could give me full spoilers. I wanted to know what happened at the end. And there they are talking about this book and I'm feeling FOMO. And I don't normally feel FOMO, fear of missing out. I don't normally feel this when I'm reading. I don't really care that much. I don't care about spoilers, whatever. But for whatever reason, when they were talking about this book, I was like, oh my gosh, that book sounds like it would have been so much fun if it was even 100, 200, 300 pages longer. Can you imagine? Oh boy. Fantasy writers, you kill me with your lengths. You have to be deeply invested in a character and in a world and in a plot in order to commit that much time. 900 pages for a mystery thriller suspense reader like me is like 2.5 to 3 books. To commit to one book that is that long is a big commitment. So I wish there had been a little bit more editing with this one. I think I would have gotten through it a little bit easier. And I know I'm not the intended audience, and I think that the intended audience really loves the length that Sarah J. Maas is putting out because they want to spend so much time in this world with these characters, and I think that's a beautiful thing. I think that once an author finds that kind of readership that just wants to spend all the time in the story, that they should fully take advantage of that. Those of us who aren't the target readership, those of us who are kind of on the outskirts, who are kind of like, yeah, maybe I'll check this book out, we may or may not enjoy that book. We may or may not find our footing in that world. The other Sarah J. Maas books that I've read are a part of the Court of Thorns and Roses. And I do think that I found myself captured a little bit more by that world, which was kind of startling to me because the Crescent City series is set in more of a present day. It has more of an urban fantasy feel, which generally I like urban fantasy better than like the medieval style fantasy. It was the wrong timing for me with this book, and I just really couldn't sink into it the way that I wanted, and I found myself just kind of deeply unimpressed with the way the story was going and with the characters that I was spending time with. It's just so strange to be reading a book where there are so many words and so much is happening and yet nothing is happening. This is the most disappointing reading vlog you have ever watched in your life, where I started 3 books and did not finish a single one. It's not my fault. I don't like dark romance. That is something I learned about myself. I really like my romances sugary. They can be spicy, but I like them more on the comedic side, the contemporary romantic comedies, the silly, hilarious romps and adventures. I don't really like the dark and twisty narratives mixed up with my love stories. I don't think I'm going to come back to this style of romance anytime soon. I don't think dark romance and I will ever get along. It is just not something that is written for me, and that is okay. There are a lot of books out there that I absolutely adore, and a lot of different styles of writing and writers who are doing things that really connect with my heart and connect with my creativity and connect with my storytelling brain. Dark romance apparently isn't it. I still can't believe that I'm going to put this video online of me not finishing a single book and just bagging on all 3 of these books. I guess I just want to say that it's okay to not like a book. It's okay to also like a book that other people don't like. So if you read any of these books and you loved them, that is good. Like, that is how it should be. There should be a reader for every book that's written, and I really truly believe in my heart that, like, we have capacity to like a multiple array and type of book and story. And I think it's okay to give critiques on books, and I think it's okay to give your opinions and say, I didn't like this, here's why, or like, this book wasn't for me, here's why. The only thing I would say is that tread carefully in these social media waters. I write books and I avoid my reviews because I think that reviews are for readers. I think that critiques after the book has been published, like this style of video that I'm giving right now, they are for other readers. They are for people who are wanting to know more about the story and whether or not it's going to jive with them. Do not reach out to the writers of the books that you don't like and tell them that you don't like it. They do not want to know that. Not every book is for every reader, and that readers aren't going to like every book, and that's just how it is. We don't get to please everybody. The art we make doesn't get to make everybody happy. We do get to make some people happy, and we get to piss off other people, and that's kind of the fun of it. But really, just don't like go into an author's space and tag them and say, hey, I hated your book and here's all the reasons why it sucked. Don't do that. That's just mean. Writers are humans too. Go into the spaces where the readers are. Talk about the books you read with other readers. Find the people who like the books. Argue with the people who don't like the books. Just leave the writers out of it, you know? The book is out there. There's nothing that can be done to change it. I know how incredibly hard writers work on writing books. I know that. Months, years, decades even sometimes, and how much a book can get under a writer's skin and into their hearts. And books are the way that writers are communicating parts of themselves and parts of the world and understanding humanity and understanding community. And so when I'm giving a negative review, I'm not coming after the writers here and saying, like, you did a terrible job at writing. That's not what I'm saying. I really do try in my videos to talk about how the book didn't work for me as one reader, as one small reader who really, it doesn't matter what I think. It really doesn't. Everybody in my book club who read this book loved it. They had so many good things to say about this book that by the end, I was sad that I hadn't finished it. Reading is a joy. It's supposed to be pleasurable. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be challenging. It's supposed to help you empathize. It's supposed to help you learn new things and learn things about yourself. I just think that reading can be a multifaceted thing, and it doesn't always have to be like, I love this book. I loved this part and this part and this part. It can be complicated. You can have a complicated relationship with the books you're reading. That's what I love about reading so much. So yeah, I didn't finish any of these books for this dark romance vlog, but I did learn a lot about myself. I learned that I don't really like the dark romance genre, and do not ask me why I like dark and twisty mystery thrillers, but I don't like dark romances. I have no idea. I don't know why my brain works that way, but that's where we're at. I like my dark and twisty without romance, I guess. I don't want love to be involved. This is what I'm saying. Reading is complicated. Feelings are complicated. Characters, getting attached to stories, it's all so complicated and yet so simple. Read what you want to read. Enjoy your life. Don't be afraid to put a book down if you're really not liking it. It is okay to not finish a book. I promise. I'm not even going to ask you for dark romance recommendations because I'm not interested. But if you have read dark romance and you have a recommendation, leave it for somebody else who likes dark romance. Put it in the comments. Maybe all the dark romance readers who follow my channel will chatter and find new books for each other to read. I'm just not going to be involved in that. I'm going to let you recommend books to other people, and I'm gonna say good for you for recommending those books that I am never gonna read. Thank you so much for spending time with me and going on this wild ride of dark romance and taboo sexy subjects and not finishing a single book. Thanks for hanging in here with me. I hope you come back again, and I will see you next time with more reading and hopefully books that I actually finish. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.